GenSphere.
Hi, my name is Kamesh, as Vishali had mentioned. I'm really glad to be here and thank you for inviting me.
All right, Kamesh. So I would really love to know more about, what your work has been in your community and what impact you've made.
So, my work kind of started back in high school. I think I've always been very passionate about health since the eighth grade, but I feel like really my sophomore year of high school is when I kind of was able to learn and understand what was actually going on in my communities and what my communities required of me and what I could do to better our community, right? And so it all started with a small anti-vaping campaign, and that kind of sprouted into something more and more. The county reached out to us to start a coalition, and it was an uphill path from there. And I've been a youth advocate ever since, and I'm very passionate about anti-tobacco, cessation prevention, and education work. And so that's kind of where my overall passion for health education really stems from.
What inspired you to get involved into, the anti-vape campaign?
I think at first, to be very honest, it was more of something that I just wanted to do for the resume, right? At first, and I'm like, I always tell people that I'm like, that's what I thought it was until it wasn't, you know. And it was kind of something that started from back there, and as I got into it, and I started really seeing all the statistics, all of the factors, and all of these different things, and it honestly just blew my mind because I was like, wow, like it's crazy how bad it is, right? And so I was like, I have so much power, as a youth, as someone whose friends and loved ones are using these products, and that's kind of where my that's kind of where I found my passions. Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like for me, I'm also like kind of like a mental health advocate.
yeah,
And I see people who deal with so much stress, they start getting into these like bad habits from a young age.
hmm,
And if they actually like, if they had resources, like there's so many resources available online, like if they actually took action to stop it, like it could literally save their lives, right?
right. And I think it's a lot more complex than that, actually. I mean, it you're right. If they can, if something is done about it earlier on, the addiction can be prevented, or the use of those products can be prevented. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, there's so many different factors that come into it, that feed into it. It's really important to recognize that, the type of community that someone's growing up in, the culture they've grown up in, the age group, and things that they have gone through in the past, whether that's bullying, whether that's racism. There's so many, or homophobia. There's so many different things that feed into that, and so I think that that's something that I'm really passionate about, being able to really do something from the grassroots up to kind of help all of these different communities and better their lives.
So I guess like another question that arises is I know there's like you mentioned homophobia and stuff, right? So how can you be more empathetic towards, I mean, honestly, we live in a democratic world, we're in a democratic state, but some people are like conservative and they're like very, I guess, closed-minded. So I guess do you have any insights on how people could like really adjust, like especially senior citizens?
Yeah, I really think that, at least from the work that I do, I don't know if I could say too much about older people and the senior citizens, but I'm a firm believer that it starts from the youngest, right? And so I'm currently just working on developing a solution with my co-founder. She's amazing, but what we're doing is kind of creating an educational tool that allows for learning of health, but overall health, and considering all these different factors and individualizing and personalizing it for every single student so that as they get older, we're kind of tackling these barriers, these stereotypes, when it comes to health overall. So I don't know if I'm very well equipped to talk about the elderly population, but for me, I'm very much focused on youth.
Mhm. So I guess amongst youth, right, there's also like bullying prevention. So do you have any insights on that?
In terms of bullying prevention, I think again it all starts from education, right? And realizing and a big part of something that I like to emphasize is that talking to people the right way, being kind, that's also part of health education, and that's what's missing in our communities, our schools, and our educational systems. And I think the United States is a phenomenal system, but I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So in terms of what you're saying, bullying, I feel like it all needs to be tackled with a holistic health perspective.
Definitely, yeah. I guess what are some of the most like formidable challenges you faced while going through the campaign?
Sorry, say that again?
Oh yeah, sorry. What are the most formidable challenges you've gone through like being active in the campaign and being a youth advocate?
I think some of the biggest challenges that I've gone through are definitely just taking the step out there and like putting my voice out there. I mean, I've done a lot of like to this day. I mean, if I look back from 3 years before, I'm a whole different person in terms of I've just grown so much. But one of the biggest challenges was like being told that I couldn't, right? Always being told that I couldn't. For example, like in terms of being a health advocate, in terms of being like starting my own business, in terms of being a pre-medical student, I was, somewhat in the form of something. I was always told that I was too emotional for it. I was too naive. I was too, I was too. And so for me, the biggest thing was overcoming myself, right? And over being like, okay, like I can do it. And understanding that all of the things that people said were my weaknesses were actually my strengths, right? And I want to work towards, you know, it's still a path for me. It's still something I deal with every day, but I think it's very internal, and it's a battle that I face internally. And yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree. Like ignoring other people's voices, all the gossip, all the other stuff, just block them out. And I guess like, as an emerging leader, right, especially in the healthcare industry, people have to learn how to like not think about what others will say, because that doesn't like, you know, bring
Right.
out the new Steve Jobs, right? So
Right, like I think it's more of just like what I've learned recently is that you take what resonates with you and you leave what doesn't. No matter how accomplished they are, no matter how successful they are, like you take what resonates with you, you leave behind what doesn't. And I think that that's something that I've been trying to follow as much because I can sometimes get swayed by other people's opinions. It's not because I don't believe in my own, but because I'm like, okay, what if there's a better than mine? But I realize, okay, it's something that I need to work on and trusting myself more. And I also think that, like I was saying, vulnerability is really important as well, um, and just acknowledging that, you can like you might have to struggle, but you know that you can achieve what you set out to achieve.
yeah, definitely. And being aware of like what your strengths and weaknesses are, but also asking for advice, like not being afraid to ask for help. I feel like, that's why people should really acquire mentors for whatever journey they want to pursue their career in. Like, it's not just healthcare, but I feel like even in tech, right, in business, to grow as a, very successful leader, you might want someone who might be there for you to like kind of tell you, oh, are you doing it correctly? Are you doing it wrong? Are you doing profit or loss? Sort of
Hmm.
like that. I don't know.
I think my mentors are quite simply the reason that I've made it this far. And I mean, at my school, I go to UC Irvine, the Palmer School of Business, the UCI Entrepreneurship Center. They've been pivotal in my growth, and it's like I owe a lot of it to them. to keep my own voice, you know, because I've
Mhm.
always felt like I've had my own voice, but to keep it and go with it is something that they've taught me to continue to do. And I think mentors are incredibly crucial, but it's all about finding that balance. And I think with experience and time and learning, you'll find that balance automatically.
Definitely. And I guess like for balance, did you manage to keep a schedule? I guess especially as a college student, managing all of this.
Yeah. Again, I'm pre-medical, and I want to go to medical school. So I'm sure you know how taxing that may. I know you're still going into college, but it's
Yes.
definitely challenging. I wouldn't say it's hard because I think that I'm also a firm believer that we change the way we say things and we say our words with intention, because challenging
Mhm.
is like, okay, I can overcome it. Overcome it. Hard is like, oh, it's too hard. You know what I mean? But it's not. It's all in your head. But I think just when I'm doing one thing, focusing on that one thing, and also just cost benefit analysis to see what is worth my time, what is not worth my time.
Mhm.
Whether that's like a 1% assignment, right? Or like a um, hanging out with someone. And so I think just being able to make that recognition for myself has been incredibly helpful. And I urge any other student to do the same.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I guess what novel approaches has your work embraced to confront these issues or adversities?
Um, so I think in terms of, are we talking about what the issues that I'm addressing?
Yes.
Okay. So what we're doing, I think for me, I'll go back to high school a little bit first. It all started with education, right? Because at the end of the day, education is really what we can do best, and that is our most preventative strategy, right? Because
Hmm.
we want to stop something before it happens, right? And I think that that has been a passion of mine for a while, right? Being able to stop something before it happens. And I've taken that approach, but I've molded it and I've kind of harnessed it and used the resources around me to gain a skill set to kind of approach such a complex problem like health literacy.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's kind of what I'm, working on. And it's very much a work in progress, but um, yeah, I think education at the end of the day is my biggest approach, and that's what I've stood by for a really long time.
Yeah, totally. I guess like for me too, education would be like the number one priority. And especially I'm advising all pre-meds to actually like education, but also get involved in the community because I was a part of a lot of volunteering programs, which kind of opened my eyes into like very different, diverse communities because I've been surrounded by, I guess, Indian people my entire life. So I feel like really stepping outside of your zone, especially the comfort zone, like this bubble that you're living in. Once you step out, you're gonna see so many struggles, especially just going near like San Francisco or Oakland. Like,
Right. And I think that yes, like that's incredibly important. But I think also that is also education. That's not. I think that's the biggest misconception that I'm trying to tackle is that
hmm,
everything you're learning every day, every single thing you do is part of your education as a human being, right? And it's important that we use our resources to the best of our ability and help provide other people other resources for them to gain a more global perspective, right? Like not thinking small, thinking of a larger scale without losing sight of who they are.
yeah, definitely. I guess for individuals who would like to pursue a career being a youth advocate for mental health or just like gain experience as a leader, do you have any advice for them?
I think my biggest advice is don't listen to no. Don't listen to no. Don't stop, but take it in, right? Feel what you're feeling. Listen to what people are saying. Take it in. You don't have to take it to heart. You don't have to put that into action. You're just listening, right? And another thing I would say is listen more than talk, right? Listen more, listen from others, learn from others, and talk less. And not in a bad way. I'm saying you should always talk and may forge those connections, but listen first, right? Because you want to hear and you want to learn from other people. Sorry for the background noise on the
No
side of me.
worries.
Um, but yeah, and I think just keep persevering is my biggest thing. Again, like I said before, I've always been told no. I've always been told, okay, I can't do it. I'm not equipped to do it. But who said I couldn't become
Yeah,
equipped to do it, right? So
definitely.
having that in you, and if you have a vision, if you have a, you know, if you have a dream, just do everything in your power to make that dream come true because you don't want to regret. You don't want to look back and be like, okay, I didn't do it, and I wish
Yeah.
I did. I could have. You know what I mean? You don't want to be that person. So I think for any advocate, any student, anyone in any general space or any part of their life, I think my biggest piece of advice or take home or action item would be just keep going, right? Keep going and work hard and keep dreaming.
Yep, keep dreaming, y'all. I guess, yeah. Thank you for being here today. And yeah, we look forward to being in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vitaly, for having me on your podcast. And it was a pleasure talking to you. And I'm sure we'll stay connected.
Definitely.